This is a February update on my 112-gallon Average Reef. I have added a couple of new corals this month, but things are pretty much the same as last month. I have also had an issue, which is not uncommon in mixed reefs, but this tank has been pretty smooth sailing for a while. I have had a little bit of coral loss lately. First, one of the new corals, I added this Micromusa frag at the top here. I had it in my frag tank for a couple of months and it really colored up under T5, so it'll be interesting to see what it does here. The one polyp did get a little bit damaged, but otherwise it's been puffy and happy despite being tucked away under the toadstool, almost being touched by those mushrooms. And then the other LPS just below it, which they would love to kill it if they had the chance. Part of the problem when you call every coral an acan and they're actually different species is if they actually touch, they'll end up killing each other. As for the issue, I lost quite a big chunk of this Pocillopora colony. It's not really that noticeable, but you can see the middle is all dead, and I also cut off quite a big chunk of the skeleton. The only parameter out of whack is my phosphates got pretty high. That could be because the coral died or the cause of the coral death. I mean, I've had this thing growing for years and it's never really had any serious issues. It did start to STN maybe a couple of months ago and I gave it a few dips. It went away, it came back, and now it's gone away again. I do love that everywhere you look in the tank, there's corals behind corals behind corals. But that does sometimes make it difficult to notice little tiny problems. You can see the mushrooms starting to grow over that one chalice that I quickly panned over. From the side, you really see just how full the tank is. Corals against the back glass, corals against the front glass, corals at the very surface, corals encrusting on the bottom glass. I really wish this was a bigger tank, but it's just not possible right now. Nor would I actually want to tear this down and put a new tank here. I do want to get a much larger tank one day, but I want to be in a place where I'm going to be happy for many years to come first. From the other side, it looks quite different. The one Gorgonian is doing really good. I have my big Goniopora colony, which also has a minor issue. Part of it doesn't seem to open up anymore. You can hardly tell because it's so big and the other polyps cover it. But there is one section, it's not dead, it just doesn't open up anymore. These nicer clove polyps are finally growing in. I had this for quite a while and it didn't really do much until I moved it into higher light. I'm hoping they'll overtake these solid colored drab ones soon. My little short polyp Goni is finally almost covering the plug. You don't really see too many frag plugs in my tank. I try and hide them well and let the corals encrust enough so that when they're added, you don't see them. The yellow one is also doing okay. The die-off on it was like that when I got it. Of course, it's not ideal. These corals are just jammed between leather corals. A lot of times if they do extend too much, they end up touching. It doesn't seem to kill them, but it can't be too good for them long term. Here you can see there's just a little tiny bit of damage to the leather. I continually cut it back, it just keeps growing. I don't really want to chop up the colony because it's a nice big piece. Frankly, I'd rather have a huge leather than a little tiny rainbow frag that's half an inch. The pom-pom Xena is starting to get a little out of control, but I have just too much of it, and I really don't want to throw it out. My sun coral colony did get a little bit of stinging damage, but otherwise it's doing fine. It's closed up here, but it opens up pretty much every day. I hate that I had to push the rhizo right to the back, but it's the only spot where it doesn't really sting anything. I guess the tips of those dendros do get it from time to time. It'll be interesting to see how much more I can get out of this tank. I do still want to add more corals, maybe another big piece, particularly if there are going to be no more wild Indo corals. Better to prepare now while we can still get them than be sad later that they're gone for either years or potentially forever again. This other NPS here is also an Indo coral. I'm not 100% sure on the species. It's never opened up, but it doesn't seem to be dying either. This Favio or Gonastria or whatever it's been reclassified as is another new piece. It's actually a pretty drab coral, but I stuck it there because there was a little bit of glue exposed, so it hides that. Really, that's about it. The tank is still full. There are some minor issues, but overall things are good this month. Thanks for watching and happy reefing.